Well, Van Allen would actually cook up his own trick because in June, as the Chrysler building's, lower floors were already taking shape, he devised his own secret plan. He planned to construct a spire, a vertex inside the top of the Chrysler building, and then once he was certain how tall 40 Wall Street would go, he could then hoist his spire up as high as he needed to raise it in order to go higher.
I just love that this is the driving concern. Like, architects have serious concerns, like the look and the layout and the features of the new building and making sure it doesn't tumble over. So many things, but no. In the height race, this is the thing that everyone's focused on. Like, how high can we make our building?
Yeah, I mean, the other conversations, right, about the fabulous Art Deco designs of the Chrysler building, the massive marble lobby that was topped by this enormous mural that would be painted by Edward Trumbull, the innovations in heating and cooling, the banks of passenger elevators that were outfitted with, intricate inlaid wood designs, that would all take a backseat to something, shall we say, more primal. A power play, right? A competition between two men about who could go bigger.
I mean, this is a tale as old as time with newspapers who just love a horse race. They turn everything into a horse race in order to sell newspapers.
It made excellent copy, although we shouldn't trivialize it too, because it still was important, if you were the owner of the building. I mean, there were business reasons why you wanted to boast that you had the tallest skyscraper, because that title would actually attract renters to your building. Who wouldn't want to rent an office in the world's tallest building? And the Chrysler building just kept going higher. By July 26th, the steel structure hit the 45th floor. By August 30th, it had reached the 61st floor. The building rose higher and higher and was eventually topped by a series of radiating domes to 77 floors in mid-October.
Radiating domes. Can I just point out, by the way, that Van Allen's design for the Chrysler building is, any way you slice it, it's just more interesting than 40 Wall Street.
Yeah.
It's more beautiful in so many ways. It shines.
It shines because it incorporated what was then a brand new style of stainless steel that had been developed in Germany called Neurosta, because it doesn't rust.
No rusta on that building, that's for sure.
Neurosta, yeah.
And it really sparkles up at the top of that building on its crown. I mean, it still does today.
If we could just flip back a couple pages to the years before that disaster, if we could go let's say 1609, could you describe the scene here in today's modern day New York City? What would we have found?
So what we would find and experience, the Mahicanituck, the Hudson River, as this rich corridor of travel and trade among disparate villages that populated the entirety of the Northeast. We know that there were approximately 25 to 30 village sites. And so it was everything that was needed for survival. It was a rich and verdant system of support. Everything was in balance, in harmony. Everything worked together as one. There were orchards here on the island of Manhattan. There were orchards that were maintained. The beach plum along the Hudson River. We also know that the blood-cling peach, which is Spanish in origin, was here even pre-contact. So rather than these naive, primitive natives who were running wild, foraging in the forest, we know that the Lenape had sophisticated agricultural practices in place prior to contact.
One interesting component about modern New York, in the sense that a lot of the major avenues were actually placed where there were former footpaths, Lenape footpaths. But the whole island had many such paths. Is that correct?
That's correct. But there are other less defined markers that I would suggest that are present here, that would be the rock people. This is an ancient place. And, there are boulders that are still present that are from that time, that ancient time. And they exist here on the island. They exist at our parks. And they are witnesses to our activities and our present day lives. Anywhere you move here on the island, you are moving in Lenape territory.
How many people who trace their heritage as Lenape or Delaware still live in New York City, still live in the region? Maybe we just expand out a little bit.
It is true that New York has been a place for many Native Americans to gather and to work and to express their modern contemporary life, but it is not a place that holds many Lenape people. We're asked that question often, and our response has been 5, and people have said 5,000 Lenape, and we say no, 5. 1,
Wow.
2, 3, 4, 5. So I think that speaks to the genocide and the removal of our people from the ancestral land. It really speaks to this moment in time where people were radically and forcibly replaced.
Mm-hmm. We had spent the first 3 days of our adventure trying to find a spot that really evoked what New Amsterdam might have looked like.
And as we asked around, the name of one village came up repeatedly: Marken, a fishing village located about 25 kilometers north of Amsterdam by bus. Until the 1950s, Marken was an island in the former South Sea, or Zuiderzee, but has since been connected to the mainland by a narrow land bridge. So after saying goodbye to Jaap, Greg, our producer Kieran, and I boarded a bus from the Amsterdam Noord metro stop. We are on the bus to Marken. And rode out past low fields, lined by dikes, and along a narrow land bridge to the former island.
There was a storm brewing, weather which perfectly matched the mood of our adventure that we had embarked on. We hopped off at Marken and walked along a narrow path.
So we got off the bus in Marken next to a field with some cows.
As a storm is approaching overhead, only making the whole situation seem more surreal.
And beautiful. Mm-hmm. We just took this path past these wooden houses.
Primarily green, black, or black in color.
Painted. And another thing that is reminding me of the models that we saw yesterday, very low fences.
They're literally just to demark the end of the yard. If you had a cow, you could step over it. So we're walking towards a city center with an old church.
The
rising to our left. Winding paths, black shutters, green, maybe a brick surface. And, in a completely foreign style from anything you would see in New York, but maybe not so different from what you would see in New Amsterdam 350, 400 years ago.
We're standing in a square next to the church. I'm looking up and down streets. I'm looking at tidy painted wooden houses. Nobody else is outside, Greg. Lightning? Yeah. Goodness, this is just so beautiful. I can't even... This is like one of the most dreamlike villages I've ever walked through.
Again, it evokes New Netherland and its architecture, but now as we kind of roll out, we see some sheep over here to the right.
I think we got to the other side of the village. Let's head down and go to the harbor. Okay. Then one of those ambient noises became thunder.
Magnificent thunder and lightning storm just rolled in, and all of the paint on all the buildings just sort of shimmered, and it just felt like we were in a kind of magic town.
Right. Yeah. So we turn to the North Sea, Greg. Turn to the North Sea, around. Keep turning.
Look, be out at the municipality known as Waterland. Which
That's
is
right.
True. It is Waterland.
Yeah, Marken's part of Waterland. And what is this body of water? One more time.
Tis the Zuiderzee.
The Zuiderzee heading out to the North Sea.